What's up, everybody? This is Joshy Brad from Practical Theism. Saturday morning here, doing a quick reflection before I get the day started. We're about a week away from Easter. Got Palm Sunday coming tomorrow. Whoop! So today, just going through the gospel reading, and it's the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 45 to 56. And there's a really interesting theme that comes out of this that I wanted to share. So this is it's the session of the Sanhedrin, and where basically the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin are taking a look at all the miracles and the works that Jesus is doing, and they're like, yo, if he doesn't knock it off, all the people are gonna follow them. So, and then Caiaphas comes in and he actually issues a prophecy, which is really interesting, without even knowing it, by the way. So, check this out, 45. Now many of the Jews have come to Mary and seen what he had done, began to believe in him, but some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees convened the Sanhedrin and said, "What are we going to do? This man is performing many signs. If we leave him alone, all will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our land and our nation." Stop. Point. Case in point. First off, this is the epitome of the dysfunction of humanity. It's more about us than it is about God, right? They'll take away both our land and our nation. Notice how they're not even concerned with proper worship due to God at this point, right? So forget the fact, even if they believed that Jesus was or was not God, right? God incarnate. They're more not concerned. It would make sense if they were entirely God-focused, right? That they would be more concerned about this person taking away the worship that is due to God alone, following the commandments. But no, they're more concerned with the Romans taking away their land and their nation. It's more about their pride, their wealth, and all of these human dysfunctions that we all kind of hold. And now this kind of translates, this is like a clear example kind of on the broad scale, but I like to pull this kind of on a personal level. How many times do we look at God and we look at Jesus and we don't want to follow him, or we don't want to follow what he's telling us to do, or guiding us through something because of what we have over here in our closet? Our wealth, our power, our pleasure, our pride, everything over here, and God's calling us over here. But we don't want to get rid of these things. Full transparency, there's stuff like this in my life that I still have to deal with this, but I'm being called kind of over here. So it's a constant balance and struggle, and we have to be transformed through that process. Nobody's perfect. Even if you think you have it right, some days, other days you don't. You fail miserably. So, but it's on clear display here, right? We all have a little Pharisee in us that we need to eradicate. Anyways, 49. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing, nor do you consider that it is better for you that one man should die instead of the people, so that the whole nation may not perish." And the author of the Gospel of John goes on to say, he did not say this on his own, but since he was high priest for that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation, and not only for the nation, but also to gather into one the dispersed children of God. So from that day on, they planned to kill him. So without even knowing it, Caiaphas goes out there and prophesies that Jesus is going to die for the many. The one's going to die for the many. Don't go into how that works or what that looks like, but this is an interesting point that we can look at from hindsight. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Oftentimes the things and the actions that were taking place right now, we're not going to see the full effect of those for weeks, months, years down the road, and we're going to look back and we're like, hey, that is exactly why that happened. This goes into the entire idea that we see in Romans, where it talks about all things are worked for the good for those who believe in God, right? Or those who believe in Jesus. I'm totally butchering the verse because I don't have it on memory. But that verse that God takes everything that happens and can even take the most sinful of things and the most evil of things in the world, and he can wrap them around and redirect them for an ultimate good, right? Jesus, arguably his sacrifice, his offering, his self-offering of love to the Father on our behalf, arguably the greatest act of love in all of history, in all the universe, right? And we see that on full display. And it's something that's so evil, our evil passions, the Pharisees and our sin and all of our dysfunction that's pulling us away from God led to one person offering themselves to God in an act of perfect love on our behalf. So while that sin caused the death of a man, God knows how to rewrap that into something that's ultimately beneficial for us. And that's a note to us not to continue in our sin, by the way. It's not to say, oh, well, we could just continue to sin or we can just continue to do bad things because somehow God will work it all together and he'll bring it all full circle. That's not to say that at all. This rather points us to a sign that while we're in the midst of our suffering, to lean on God and give it to God and offer it to God because he will take it and he'll transform it. But it's also a sign that no matter what we do, God's always going to be working through it. And good is always going to be the end result, right? The goodness of God is always going to be the end result. So we can bypass that evil by getting rid of sin and cooperating with the Spirit and the grace that God's giving us to allow us to be the fullest expression of what God intended for us and of what God intended for humanity by choosing the good, right? God is always directing us back to himself in full communion of himself, which is love in its fullest sense and goodness. And when in the measure that we choose that, we're not choosing evil. And in my estimation, God's kind of perfect world and idea behind what he intended for creation was to walk in easy fellowship with that in a life, in a world that is measured by perfected love. And so we always need to be conforming ourselves to that love because that divine love is what truly transforms the world, transforms society, transforms culture, transforms people, transforms family, transforms relationships, transforms work environment, transforms everything in the world to be living and operating at the highest pitch in the way that God ultimately wanted. So that's that. John 11 Gospel Reflection. Have a great Saturday, and if you like this video, hit that like button, pound that subscribe button like you mean it, so you can get more of this awesome content. From all of us here at Practical Theism, we'll catch you next time. Thanks.